flat rate on the tax rate this year?
Actually, the interest and sinking rate goes up 2 cents from 9 cents last year, and that is due to the drop in valuations. This is what it takes to raise the revenue needed to make our bond payments. Due to state compression, our M&O rate has dropped to 9634 from 9664. So it's dropped 0.3. So close to the same, but it is a decrease.
Thank you.
Hearing no comments, we'll close the public hearing.
Okay, the public hearing is now closed.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is open forum.
You have 2 that signed up.
Okay, we have 2.
Yes.
Okay. Eric? Garcia?
Yeah, he's right there.
Right there, Eric? And Kevin Cummings had signed up for open forum. Gentlemen, the board will not make any comments. You'll just be speaking to us, okay? We will not be asking any questions. So you'll have 5 minutes to speak. And when you are ready, get my phone going. Go.
Do I need to turn this on?
It's on, I think.
Okay. My name is Kevin Cummings.
No, it's not, it's all, it's red. There you go.
That's good. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Kevin Cummings. I own a local accounting firm here in town. I'm also the president of Chase Your Dream Youth Sports. And I'm here today to advocate for soccer in schools. Soccer is the #1 growing sport in America. I myself have 2 kids that have played since they were little bitty. One has now made an elite team in Wichita. We drive her 8 hours every single weekend to play soccer. She's 12 years old. Both of my kids have played several sports, but have always loved soccer the most. I've coached 7 years of soccer and had over 200 kids, all of whom most still play. Those same kids have come back and mentored and coached the new kids, these little guys, the new generation. Those that come back, those that still play, know that soccer is not just a game to them. It's life. It teaches them grit, determination, hard work, sacrifice, but most of all, a sense of community, a sense of belonging. They don't have that currently. We have kids right now that have tried out for the Olympics, been looked at by colleges as early as 14. And I believe right now, if we took our high school kids and we started them in the next semester, we would win a state title. I think they're that good. They've beaten the #2 team in the nation before, and they can do it again. While budgets are tight, we understand it's not easy to implement a new sport, but we've gone out and asked many local businesses, and many are here to support our high school kids, whether it be through gas, goals, uniforms, whatever the soccer kids need, girls and boys, we will provide. We even had employees that have said they'll coach the students. If we can't find them, they'll coach them. Upon the recommendation of Mr. Morales, we'll be forming a committee to explore a future soccer program and how the effects of the athletic program, overall school participation, and the community members would be affected. The students, the business owners, and a school board member, Mr. Morales and hopefully Coach Habather will be on this committee. I was told the last time I was only one person, but today I wanted to show we are many. There are many here who you see support this very instance of wanting to have soccer in our schools. It's not just a game to them. You gotta understand, it's a community. The demographics have changed. People truly want this. It means a lot to this community to be able to bring in soccer. And I hope you just listen, open your minds, open your hearts to these kids who give everything they have to play every day, to go out and play soccer. And just as a parting note, we found a UIO rule that the majority of the school board would vote yes, we could begin soccer in the very next semester. Thank you for your time. Just wanted to get that out there, and I'll let Eric speak.
All right, thank you. Okay, next. Eric? 1 second. Okay, when you're ready.
Hello, good evening. My name is Eric Garcia. I am a senior this year. I come before you today to voice our support for soccer. Everyone gathered here today believes it's time for soccer to come to our school. Over the course of the five days since school started, I was able to gather roughly about 117 signatures, that being overwhelmingly students and a few teachers supporting soccer. Soccer is a popular sport, an important sport in Perryton. But all these kids are never given the opportunity to represent their school doing what they love most, and that's playing soccer. However, if you were to implement a soccer team at this very moment, not only would there be a boys team, there would also be a girls team. And I have to mention, many girls that would play soccer are today at Borger playing volleyball, representing their school. Many of these students wanting to play soccer are also football players, basketball players, volleyball players, track stars, and top academic students at our school. The best our school has to offer. And like Mr. Cummings says, I'll go a little further. I can promise you that the first year soccer is implemented at our schools, a state soccer championship would come to Perryton. And with that, I think it's time for our school board to take action and bring soccer to Perryton. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank everyone for showing up tonight. We will take your concerns into consideration. With that being said, we'll move on with our meeting and go into executive session. The board will now convene in a closed session to discuss the following items posted on our agenda this evening as allowed by the Texas Government Code and/or Education Code, Attorney Consultation, Government Code 551.071, and Personnel Matters, Government Code 551.074. Okay. Okay. Call this meeting back into order. Time is 7:28. We're ready for Superintendent's report. Mr. Morales.
First thing I want to talk about, guys, is the start of school. We had a lot of changes last year, a lot of teachers moving. I can't say enough about our teachers and our principals, our maintenance people. I'm just keep going down at any of our staff. We had a great start of the school year. And if everybody wouldn't have been working hard all summer, it wouldn't have happened that way. So I'm very pleased. Like I said, and the teachers have made some pretty good adjustments and big adjustments from having to do this. And, you know, we've always said around here, you know, we make decisions for kids. And I think everybody took that pretty seriously. And we've had a great start to our school year. So I'm looking forward to a good year. Pre-K building. The pre-K building, again, if you haven't seen the pictures that have been out there, it's a nice building. I think Darren is putting some pictures out there. The kids are excited about being there. We're getting through the wrinkles of opening that building. Right now, the drop-off is great. They're dropping the kids off, and there is no stall at all. And then the pickup, we're getting better at it. Our first attempt was 22 minutes to get all the kids picked up, because with the little ones, you got to almost put them in the cars. They're that small, and how we're doing that. And I need to thank principals for doing that. And they'll give you a little bit more about how that's working. But as far as us opening and kind of opening a new building, a smooth start. Maintenance people did a great job getting the building ready to go. Fence around it, doors, Darren with the safety, cameras. I mean, it is a nice what?
I said Rodney.
And Rodney technology. Guys, when you open a new building, it takes a lot of people, and it's been a good opening for them. And I think the teachers, now that they're moved and everything's there, I think they're glad to be there too. And be in their own little area with those. So that was a good move. Again, that was House Bill 3 that said you had to have a full day pre-K. So that's how we adjusted it. It costs us a little bit of money, but I think it's a fix for us for a few years until hopefully things get better. Softball field update. Today, I did see pictures. They do have the press box raised up about 7 inches. They did pour concrete today underneath it, and Alan was there helping them out, trying to make sure that's happening. But the poles are up, things are moving there. I don't think we'll have the whole project done by the end of August, but we'll have a lot of it done by then. So that's a good thing on that. And again, we want to thank Jim Powell because he's been out there directing traffic. We did have a few issues with grass. The field was getting a little hot during those hot days and kind of turning a little bit yellow, but I think they're green again, and we've not had any major issues yet, so we're going to keep our fingers crossed and hope that that project gets completed hopefully before the end of September or early October. Soccer program. We've had a little bit already this meeting with some soccer. Guys, I met with Mr. Cummings, Mr. Garcia, I think Mr. Ramirez was another one, came into my office, and we met about the soccer program. They told me kind of what their ideas were. You know, I think they want a soccer program. It just doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, a lot of planning, a lot of processes you have to go through. I do think that we give it a very good look, a fair look at all the numbers, see what's out there, and possibly when that could happen. I do know that soccer a lot of times is a very popular sport when you have a high Hispanic population. In places I've been, it's that. So we are there. So we'll get a true look. Myself, Joe Ogden has volunteered to be on the committee. Coach Aberther's voluntold maybe, to be on a committee, soccer committee. But we're going to give it a good look and look at the numbers and look at everything. And I mean, there's just a lot of things to consider before you go out there and do that. But I do want the public to know that we will give it a good, fair, thorough look on that. All right, next one is COVID-19 updates. Wow. I don't know what to tell y'all. The COVID world is wild out there of what people are doing. I do know that several superintendents did not make the governor very happy when they went against his order of no mask mandates. And I'm talking about Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, major school districts. I would say there are no school district that I know of in the Panhandle that went against his mandate. They've all just stayed there. The way every school district is handling COVID is a little different. I've talked to several superintendents on how they're doing that. I need some input from you all, kind of which direction you all want me to go with some of this. We always, when we made the return to school policy, we did say it was a living document, and we would change as we go and as we find out information, and we'll continue to do that, because I really think that's the only way you can do this when you don't know what the future holds. So one of the things that's out there is a tracing, contact tracing. Some schools are doing that, some schools are not doing that. I talked to the superintendent from one of the local districts around here, and he said no, they're not doing it. They're doing the rapid testing rather than doing that. So that's one of the things that is out there on that. We know that if we don't know, they're saying if you get vaccinated, then that helps you out as far as quarantining people. If you're vaccinated, then you don't have to quarantine. So I need some guidance on whether or not you want us to continue the contact tracing.
I would suggest that at this point in time that we go ahead and do not do the contact tracing, but let everybody know too that if they don't feel comfortable and want to wear the mask, then they can wear the mask.
Okay, yeah, and I think that is our recommendation for everybody else there. It's a recommendation. Nothing that's came from CDC or TEA is mandated. It's all recommendations. So it's again, it's a local decision by us.
Which I think it's certainly the opinion of the board and of the community, as I've talked to different community members, that we do just follow the science, the actual science that's out there that talks about the lack of efficacy for several of the things that we thought a year ago were our saviors, that turned out not to be once we did the actual testing on, and make a lot of these choices on vaccines, on mask wearing, on attendance, that is the choice of the individual family to be able to make. That it's not for us to mandate their personal medical choices.
So you're gonna put, do you need it in the form of a motion?
No, I just needed the recommendation.
All right.
If everybody's thinking that's the direction we'll go.
Okay, all right.
Good with that.
Good that? Richard, you're good with that?
Yes.
All right. So we will put that out, that we will not be doing contact tracing then.
Okay. All right, anything else, Mr. Morales?
I think that's it
We'll
on
move
me.
to campus reports. First up, Perryton High School.
Well, spent most of my afternoon today contact tracing on an issue today, so guess I don't have to follow up with that tomorrow. But no, we had, like Mr. Morales said, we had a great start to the school year, and you know, it's nice to just get back to some normalcy, and we just helped a little bit with that too. So.
Okay.
But I don't really have anything else to add.
Okay. Dent, you have anything to add to your report?
No, sir, nothing there.
Okay. All right. Report from Perryton Junior High.
Everything's good at junior high.
That's what we hear. That's great.
We've had a great start. So.
Good. Good. Okay. Williams Elementary.
Well, I got a lot to say. I want to thank Doug and everybody else for getting us our shower. It's the only shower on these two campuses anywhere, and it's already been in use, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate y'all get that for our kids, because it is very handy. Other than that, you'll most you'll ever hear me say, it's all good at Williams.
Okay.
But thank you.
All right. Ms. Chisholm, anything on your report?
We are so excited at Wright to have kids back, and things are going great at Wright.
Okay, great.
It's a fantastic start of the year.
Great. I hear good things there too. Okay. All right. Ms. Wilson.
So our dismissal time was down 7 minutes today.
Woo,
So
thank you.
there's our good news and our thing to add.
Okay.
Everything's good at Kinder.
All right. Okay. The August Communications and Safety Report. Move on to those. Darren?
It's all in the report unless you have any questions or comments about any of it.
Maintenance Report.
How do you like that?
Okay. Technology.
Nothing to add.
Any questions from the board on any of that? Coach Chapter Athletics Report.
We're got a lot of our cross-country kids back, boys side, so looking forward to seeing what they can do. Way up on our numbers in football than what we were last year.
That's
Since I
fantastic.
put that out, we're at 108 today.
Almost
Maybe we'll
back.
take down to 107 tomorrow. It just depends on what side of the bed they might go on.
Won't be because of contact.
No, we have 45 kids on TV.
That's fantastic. That's good.
Was there a rating on our cross-country team or not? Is
So
there
we were
a
ranked number one in state.
That's what I
preseason,
thought.
so. But you can take preseason rankings and they just go off of last year. That's it.
And all the boys are back out except one, two that were on the team last year. Good.
Okay. Food and nutrition.
She's not here.
She's absent, yes. Okay, the Ranger Roundup Learning Center.
Nothing to add.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, what's your numbers today?
60, high 60s. I've been off for a couple days, so I haven't checked, but high 60s. Almost 70. We lost a couple, but we gained a couple. We had a couple that moved from full-time summer attendance to just drop-ins during breaks. And so I moved them off of our officially enrolled list. So it went down a little bit, but not because we lost a whole bunch of people, just
Okay.
down a few.
All right. Dr. Rock's not here for curriculum instruction.
No, but Christy is. Do you want to say something you've been working on? By the way, this is Christy Way, guys. She's the new person we hired to help us with our ESSER grants. But she was the one working on this, so give us a short.
I don't really have anything unless y'all have some questions. It's been submitted. We should go back September 10th, and then we'll go from there. It's just in the pre-stages.
What are the 4 areas or 5 areas?
We have the decoding text, then we have the grow your own, then we have the residency. That's where we'll bring the student teachers in, and they'll student teach for a year, and then we'll work out some kind of a contract with them. And then, of course, the PK, which is the dual credit.
And how much is the value of this grant?
I think we're looking over $800,000.
So we put her to work right away.
Any other questions on reports presented? We'll move on to the CFO report. Doug, you're up.
First is disbursements for the month. On page 20 is the computer checks to be paid or pending, checks pending, a couple pages of those. And then on page 23 is the district checks so far for the month of August. Is pages 1 through 10 of those. And then on page 34 starts the complete disbursements for the month of July 2021. And that goes up, looks like about 18 pages of those there. Next are our financial reports. Starts on page 52, 53. Total reconciled cash position at the end of the month of July, $273,406. Our general operating funds total of $8,160,229 includes CDs of $8,065,000 on the previous page there on page 55. Interest and sinking funds of $1,160,737 include CDs of $1,146,438. And let's see. That's the CD listing there is on page 58. Cafeteria funds of reconciled balance of $966. Special education funds of $267,458. Activity accounts of $382,963 include CDs of $335,993. And let's see, CDs are on the back of page 64. It looks like. Ranger Roundup, $2,089. Capital project funds of $121,482, which is our CD for our turf replacement project. And now it's our financial statements. Our revenues, this is on page 68. Revenues through July, $19,679,527. Expenditures of $18,872,092. And you can see across the line there our capital outlay numbers of $284,108, and the detail of that is on page 69. There you can see those. We continue to have expenditures on our softball field project and the pre-K building project. And the shower project, it looks like is finished now, so that's we're going to be paying for that here shortly. See,
he's in there. He's still back there.
Behind you, Doug. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, that was supposed to be done last Christmas, but
Darn COVID.
COVID delayed last year, so. hopefully it's gonna get going. I haven't seen a bill on it yet.
Okay, I know it's done.
Okay.
It works.
Financial statements, again, starting on page 70, our revenues of $19,679,000, 88.28%. Our estimated revenues of $22,292,000. Expenditures, page 73, at $18,872,000, which is 84% of our budget. We'll have in the month of August, we'll have, of course, we have August expenditures, and then we have accruals for the end of the year, which hit in August too. So you'll see the bulk of the expenditures will hit in August. And we'll have another foundation payment that's going to hit in a couple of days too. I've already seen that on their sheet too. So I think we're going to end up in pretty good shape for this year. So we're hoping for a break-even deal, considering all the issues, but I don't know for sure. We'll see how that goes. Food service revenues of $932,098, expenditures of $1,075,268. Debt service of revenues of $1,174,000, expenditures of $314,000. We made our debt service payments on August the 13th this year, and which will be the principal on all our debts and everything. We had money available to do that, and then reinvested the balance of the CD, for next year. And the capital projects funds there, about no change on that. Ranger Roundup revenues of $279,000, expenditures of $467,000. The financial statement on the next page. See our revenue total, $279,000, and expenditures, and the detail of the revenues and expenditures. I'll always be giving you those too there. Okay, shifting gears now. Next, we got our first rating for last year that's just briefly announced, and awesome news is that we made 100 on it. Y'all see all the different categories there. Some starts on page 88. We had the past year we did not make 100, but this year we're back to our straight A's here, so we're keeping.
And guys, I'm just going to say something. That's great news, because Doug is doing a good job, and our auditors go through this, and that's how we get bad ratings if we don't have everything in order.
Yeah, what hit us the year before last was the compliance deal that the auditors pointed out, which I really questioned that anyway. I didn't think it really rose to that level, but it is what it is. Sometimes you can't argue with auditors. But we will have a public hearing on that in September, so we'll present that to you later on. Speaking of auditors, we have been involved in a audit with the Texas Education Agency on our Idea B program, and I've given you the final results of that on starting on page 92, 93, and considering everything, y'all can read those observations that they came up with, but I think we really did a great job on this audit. Everything that they made some comments about some travel with LaFour's ISD had with our SSA, sort of some odds and ends, and then the vendors that the SSA uses for providing services to them. The only one in the whole Panhandle that does that. We couldn't really document that this things that they should have compared quotes, but these are vendors that have done that work for over 10 or 15 years and everything. You can read those, but all all the documentation she did on our payroll and our time and effort and our compliance with those things was perfect. So I think it really points that this was about as good as an audit as we could get. But we worked with this lady off and on. She's working from home, and she's in Austin, and since going back to probably February or March, so it's been sort of on and on. So
All she could find is $667 that was coded incorrectly, and a couple of items that were purchased that weren't competitively bid on items that aren't competitively priced in this
Yes.
region anyway.
Exactly.
She's digging pretty deep.
Every school in the Panhandle uses those services, except for Emerald ISD, which they have their own in-house people that does those.
We didn't call them and get a bid.
They don't do bids. The closest other provider of those services is Lubbock or Oklahoma City. And they're, you know, you did a better job of explaining everything than I did, really. But I wanted to be, you know, wanted y'all to see that. The payroll issues, there's a whole section, we ruled that around for a long time. No findings at all on that, the documentation there, so. Obviously, I'm real pleased with how it turned out. We did, when she gave their proposed findings, there was no consequences to it, so we just agreed to it. You know, there's no reason to not to.
Can't argue with auditors, right? That's what you said a minute ago.
This particular lady, she calls me at all hours of the evening. I got numerous calls at 7, 8 o'clock at night when she talks, and she's hard to understand. She's not a native-born American, so I think she's Chinese, but
She's watching on Facebook Live right now.
yeah, there she is. I hope she is, but
Yeah, good reminder.
I complimented her at the end and said she was fair with us, so we're pleased with it. So.
No hiding.
Yeah. I have nothing to hide, it's all out there.
Good job.
We did on that one adjustment, we ended up making it, that was the very first expenditure for LaForge, and we ended up reclassifying that to 437. They were fine with that. So whatever. Last but not least is our enrollment report, which is not too shiny. The enrollment as of in August, I don't know what date that is, but 1,937 compared to the year before of 2,105. We ended up last year 2,065. So the end of last May, we're down from 2,065 down to 1,937.
What do we budget for, 1950?
1925.
That number doesn't include the pre-K kids, because Shelley did that enrollment sheet the first day of school, so she did not include the pre-K kids because they barely started on.
And that was going to be my question.
Yes.
So
So now,
approximately how many we end up with?
68.
68?
68.
Okay.
So add 68 to that number,
That's good.
but we're still down about.
But you know, enrollment is not the same as average daily attendance, so that's what's the key number, so. That's it, unless you have any more questions.
Okay. All right, move on to consent agenda items. We have the minutes of the prior meeting as well as 2 special call meetings.
Motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Budget amendments, Doug?
This is an amendment to make sure that at the end of the year, we're not overspent in the transfers to zero out the fund balance, the deficit in the food service fund and in the Ranger Roundup Fund. Of course, you can see the numbers on the loss from the financials. I've estimated an additional amount possibly for August. And then on the Ranger Roundup, we still have a payment from Aqua Tree Hospital District to come in. So we had appropriated last year at the beginning of the year $100,000 for each of those in the original budget. So to make sure at the end of the year we have enough, we're not overspending that function, we're adding another $100,000, 75 for food service and 25 for Ranger Roundup.
Questions? Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0 on budget amendments.
Thank you.
Okay, we now move on to discussion or action items. First up is consideration and possible action on the TTESS appraisal calendar for 2021-2022 school year.
Yes, this is Dr. Rock. She did the work on this. You can see the calendar there. This is all about the principals going and doing their observations on the teachers. It has the dates when everything's supposed to happen, when it's supposed to be completed. Basically, we just need to get this out there, and then at the bottom it gives who the other evaluators are in case there is a conflict on evaluation. But I recommend that the board approve the T-test appraisal calendar for the 2021, 2022 school years as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Okay, we now move to adopt the general operating budget, Fund 199, Debt Service Fund 599, Cafeteria Budget, Fund 240 for the 2022 fiscal year.
If y'all principals want one. Okay, first part, there's an extra. Oh, yeah. First, we've gone over we've sort of had our notice that we covered the meeting earlier, and this first section is this first page is the notice that we published in the paper. It's the tax rates that the board decided on in the last meeting and everything. And then on the next page is the resolution to set the tax rate. Once it's adopted, we'll get those signed, and then the copy of the certification of the appraisal roll from the appraisal district. Moving on to the next section is our proposed budget for our general fund, with closing $21,141,887. And flip to the next page, you can see how it compares with the last 3 years. We're down almost $1 million in revenue and expenditures. So this is what you could say a sort of a bare bones budget, I guess you would say. Where some things. There's a couple of items that allowed us to balance this budget, and one of the items was a decrease in salaries based on positions that we didn't rehire and everything. Comparing the original budget to this budget, the salaries in our general operating fund were down $538,115, and then if you add payroll taxes and other payroll benefits on top of that, that allowed that to change. You can see the appropriation of $11,839,880 compared to last year of $12,284,000. So that's a good decrease there. And another reason that we are down is you can look at function 34, our transportation function. The difference between last year and this year is a little under $300,000.
Well, that's a question I had. Year-to-date, we've spent $723,000, and we're budgeting for student transportation for this upcoming year, $297,000. How are we proposing cutting 45% out of?
$359 is what we're budgeting.
359, sorry, 297 is the difference between the two.
We're not paying all aboard transportation, including in the budget last year was included those the bus purchase. We don't have any vehicles budgeted for that.
Okay, but this 657, 497 includes the bus purchase?
No, that was the original budget. That included a minivan that was budgeted.
Okay.
But it doesn't, we amended the budget later on for that bus.
For the bus we added, so that's where we come up with the 723 then. But is that much difference between all aboard and what we have budgeted for doing it ourselves?
The salaries, and we've got all our employees for transportation in there. The appropriation for salaries is $332,331. And see, last year we had only budgeted $81,000 because there was 3 employees that stayed with us and plus some other things like that. And so the difference is
that number includes everything, all the staff, everything.
Yes.
We're not leaving anything out.
No.
All right.
And we're providing for all the things that we have to pick on, the repairs to the buses, the fuel, which we were paying for the fuel anyway. You know, we were paying for all that fuel. See, just in the appropriation for all aboard last year for student transportation was $407,000, and then there's other categories for special ed and extracurricular and all those different things there.
I don't think Doug could ever give you all a fair number when y'all asked how much more it was. We were always guessing it was probably about 250,000.
We hired back all the bus drivers, and we're paying them the same rate that all aboard is paying them. We hired back the mechanic there, and he's doing a great job. We hired back their manager and all that. So all those salaries are included in this, and without that, we couldn't have balanced this budget.
Right. I'm not arguing your numbers. When I just calculated the differences on each of those last year to this, and 45% jumps out at you pretty quick.
Yeah.
Instructional leadership, what's included in that?
Instructional leadership is the Dr. Rock's office, and last year we budgeted all of her salary in that, but to do things right with the TEA guidelines, the part of her salary that deals with curriculum is properly reflected in function 13 and not in function 21.
Okay. So
And I got her to give me an estimate of what percentage of her duties is curriculum, and she said about 75%. So I allocated change this year. I changed, you can see, look on function 13, how much it went up compared to 13. We used to do that, but we had got away from that, and I was doing some research on how to code some of the ESSER grants, and I was reading over that, and to do it properly, that part of it is a function 13 expenditure.
Okay.
Her total salary stayed the same, but it's just split between two different deals.
Just allocated between the different functions.
Right. The campus leadership, of course, is the principals, and that went down slightly. Counselors is pretty close to the same. School nurses is, I think we had a change. We had one RN nurse, and this year we have a LVN nurse, which are salaries are a little lower. They're pretty much the same. Co-curricular is athletics, and it's pretty much real similar. The there's things that just keep going up and up, travel, refereeing, officials' cost just keeps going up and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty comparable. General administration is pretty comparable too. We're budgeting for part of my salary for this year, and then the new CFO salary in there too. So that's a change, but it's actually the appropriation went down.
Went down 1.28%.
And these are comparing original budgets with, with that. Maintenance is up a little bit. He's got some issues on some projects that they've been putting off for a long time. Some asbestos abatement on some flooring problems and some things like that he just has to do, he said.
Or if you go by a nail, it's 30% higher than what that nail was a year ago.
And custodial supplies, and those things are they just keep to be going up and up and up. It just seems like it never ends, that kind of thing. So we end up on maintenance. We provide for a lot of things in there, but we end up don't spending it all, so it adds back to our fund balance, that kind of a deal.
Well, in all, it still ends up down 4.46%. Like I said, there are just a couple of things I had questions on. I mean,
Security,
you have definitely answered.
Function 52 is pretty much the same. Technology is pretty much the same. The debt service is the lighting project we're paying the state energy conservation off. That's the exact same amount, total debt service as we had last year. And I provided for $250,000 of capital projects to be determined, and part of the softball project is going to carry over to that. So we'll have enough to finish that softball project because it won't be expended. We're just going to have part of it done. It's going to split 2 years basically. And then the SSA payments are pretty close to the same. Tax appraisal costs are a little bit lower because our property taxes are a little lower. They divide that, the appraisal office, based on the taxes that are the valuation. As our values go down relative to others, it's pretty changes just slightly. And then I provided for $200,000 of transfers to the food service and Ranger Roundup to cover it then. That's probably not going to be all, but I started off with $200,000 to put it in there, and I ended up, to make this thing balance, I had to go back and cut about $120,000 out of different places. But I wanted to keep the 200 and the 250 in there if at all possible, and we ended up making it work. Let's sort of go over the revenues to see how we come up with those revenues too. There's this page here that, sorry I don't have these pages numbered, but it's a comparison of the revenues. It's yeah. Of course, the property taxes are based on the spreadsheet attached. The property taxes at our lower valuations, and you can see how those are calculated. The 9634, we're going to generate a difference of almost $900,000 or so difference between what we budgeted or what we're projecting this year compared to last year. Almost $1 million in taxes decrease there, $8,732,000. And then the others are projections that you can see carrying from this spreadsheet here, the delinquent collections and those kind of things carry over. And we ended up going with the 1925 for enrollment. You can see how those change as our enrollment drops to 1900. We start losing revenue there. $9,477,000 compared to $9,305,000, and then down to $1,877 to $9,132,000. So you can see that trend going up. And so we ended up going with the 1925. The other revenues are pretty comparable with this year. You can see how our foundation revenues are compared to the current, last year, $9,477,000 compared to our projections this year, $8,265,000. And we sort of gone over this a little bit when we did the update back in the first of the month. So nothing's changed on this except that we updated the tax collections for the month of July, and they're included on this schedule here attached. And then those schedules, when you update those affect the amounts on the spreadsheet when those get changed, and then the funding formulas when the tax collections change, that changes the amounts of the template too. But one of the biggest things, like we talked about, was the decrease in per capita foundation available school fund per capita funds. This current year, we're getting $996 compared to this year, template is $388. So that right there is, over $600,000 difference almost, a decrease there. And the TRS and Medicare on behalf number is exactly the amounts that's reflected in the expenditures in the different accounts. It's it's an offset deal. It's our accounting system calculates that, and it records it as a revenue and expense. And so that's offset by expenditures. The same way on our consolidated amounts for our Title I, II, III, and IV months, 52868 agrees exactly with the amounts reflected in our expenditures of those same amounts. So it's sort of a balancing deal. So we ended up with the 21,141,887 there. And a few little things we talked about, wanted to point out the differences in the function 34 and transportation, and the salary differences of the 538. Substitute teachers, I wanted to point out how much this budget includes substitutes. We've incurred so far this year, and we still have the month of August to report for substitutes, $194,000 in substitutes, and our appropriation for next year is pretty much right in line with that, $202,750, split out in different campuses and that kind of thing there.
We used to have guidelines or suggestions from the TDA or something about what percentage of the budget would go into the classroom. Are you still keeping track of that stuff?
There used to be a deal called the 65% rule. Yeah, that's when we used to calculate all the time, but that doesn't.
Where do we fit now, or where do you think we do? I'm not sure which categories we used to count.
There was some of the
fudging going on.
Some of the reports I ran for you there. There's one of them that breaks it down by 56% is in function.
Which page you on?
It's called the total appropriations by fund function there. 56% is function 11, but in that calculation you used to be able to use function 11, 12, 13, and then 36, and some other functions. So if you add all those together, but there's no hard fast rule on it.
Yeah, just last, I think when I was on board last time, we were trying to put more money, or at least allocate more money to classrooms. Try to get more dollars into the classroom. That's why I was asking where we currently are and whether we've changed.
But we don't really, we cover what we have to have. We cover all the employees that the board has hired. We cover all the salaries for those, provide for the budgets for each one of the departments and that sort of thing. And then that's where we end up, basically. There's no decision-making to put more money in it.
Does the superintendent keep track of it?
No, but we can try.
Let's see, there's something else I wanted to share. Health insurance for the district. I was curious to see how that run. The current year, we've spent $665,000. Next year, $621,033 is what's budgeted. The decrease is different employees that we're not providing for. So as we drop employees, and that drops the payroll cost of that too. Okay, let's, and then I included a copy of the average daily attendance report too. We looked at before in there too. Moving on, our debt service fund, we're proposing a budget of $1,362,500. And there's the spreadsheet like there, the same one like that, under the section on debt service. We probably ought to number these pages, that would probably help us in the future.
Yes. Are you short timing it? What's the deal here?
Yeah, I'll leave a memo for next year to do that.
I'll leave a memo.
You can see, basically, we're budgeting enough to cover what we need to cover for debt service, and it results in these projections of a almost $38,000 increase. But last year we thought we had an increase too, but we ended up decreasing our fund balance this year because of the collection rate. And hopefully our collection rate is going to be similar to this, but you just never know for sure. We need to definitely make sure we have enough money to pay the obligations as they come due. And moving on to food service, we're proposing a budget of $1,252,800, which is, the budget for this was sort of challenging. The reimbursement rate is supposed to be better next year. Of course, we have very little, the local revenue is sort of declining because the reimbursements, everyone's getting free meals and everything like that. So I've provided for to make it balanced with them, I've provided for $100,000 transfer in, which we reflected in our deal there. So we think it's going to be better next year with the reimbursement for those. And at the end, I've provided y'all with the chart of accounts. It shows all our different funds, the functions, object codes, those kind of things. Updated those. So hopefully y'all have a question or two. I was real pleased that we came out balanced. That was my goal. And we did. I wanted to make sure we had enough provided for capital projects to at least cover the softball field and some other things that whatever might pop up. We did, and provided a pretty good amount for transfers out. We did that too. So
Well, I think it's impressive that y'all have taken almost $1 million out of the budget from last year.
Yes.
Rising costs and everything else we're going through right now, and that wasn't fun, but it's not gonna be fun.
A bulk of that was payroll. $600,000 maybe in payroll from positions, 300,000 in transportation, 100,000 in spread out in different other places.
Yeah, without the attrition, guys, we wouldn't have made
There
that.
would have been
I'm just gonna say.
absolutely no way. And from this point on, anybody new hired is gonna have to be, we have to have a budget amendment for it. There's no room or now anybody that's hired that replaces somebody in the budget, obviously we can do that. But anybody else is gonna have to, we're gonna be spending our fund balance if we hire anybody else.
And guys, I need to thank Doug, because I've been up here some weekends, and he's been up here every weekend trying to make the 24th rather than the 31st day. So he's put a lot of extra time in here trying
Well,
to
it's
make all these numbers
It's
work.
normal, I've done this since 2004, and it's the same amount of, the first 3 weeks of August are just work as long and hard as you can. The problem is getting payroll right and set, and we've got every single employee in the district, we look at and set their payroll according to the plan, and the stipends that are assigned to them, the rates and everything, and we do a good job at it. Lisa Kemp and I work together on that, and she does a great job, obviously, but we have a really good record. When the salary verifications go out in September to the employees, 99% of them are we're working on incorrect information on experience that wasn't documented right or whatever like that. So we try to get it set right the first time, and then when it goes to real payroll, it's already done.
Well, I'm still hoping this is the tough year. I think we're seeing improvements enough in the economy that I hope this is going to be the challenge, and we'll get a little bit more relief next year. You were looking at the attendance numbers, and you're hoping that reflects back on the ADA as we go through the year a little bit, and it keeps coming up a little bit. But yeah, I think it's a good job, Doug, and I think it's good that it's balanced. I think that's a good statement. So.
Well, this is our lowest values we've seen, and
Yeah.
And then, you know, you look at our local tax collections, they're down almost $1 million. They're down $3 million from 2 years ago. And we lowered taxes from $1.04 down to 96 and lowered them again. I mean, it's been done pretty frugally.
You know, there's three variables built into here. You know, we talked about the average daily attendance is probably the biggest variable, and then the comptroller's T2 number is a big variable, and then our property tax collection rate is, you know, that kind of thing is a variable. But you just go with the best effort. All the other things are projections, and you just go with what you think is going to happen. Last year we overstated foundation revenue because of the T2 number, you know, like we talked about before. You know, we understated that, which resulted in more revenue than we actually got. And then our property tax collections were lower too. And then our interest income last year was a lot lower than what we projected. So this year we're pretty modest on that. That's a big change this year. So.
And Richard, I know you're being optimistic, saying I hope this was the worst of it.
Well, as opposed to last year when I was really complaining about everything.
Right. Yeah, I agree. But here's the deal, guys. If it doesn't change, we're probably going through the same thing we went through last year with attrition. I'm just trying to warn you ahead of that. If things don't improve and the economy stays the same, guys, we've got to do that same thing again, or we won't make a balanced budget. Because our student numbers are going down. I mean, we saw that. Our students' numbers are going down. Our tax values are going down. I mean, we're getting double whammied.
There's a hold harmless built into this year too, based for the COVID deal, you know, which that goes away going into next year too. So we'll really go back down to actual what our average daily attendance is, and hopefully we can the attendance officer is gonna make a difference on hopefully come up with some of that difference, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah,
Well, and still the ADA is the driving force here, so, again, I recommend we know why kids are leaving, why kids are not showing up. I think we've kind of ignored that in the past, and instead of treating people like customers, and we need to know why people are leaving the system by choice.
Yeah, I think by
something
choice
we
is
can do, we need to
a
do.
big one. But, Mr. Kane, we've added him as our truancy coordinator, water officer. And we had a meeting this morning with administrators, and definitely I think the message it was sent is, you've got to do a better job with attendance, find out who's not here, who's here. And then once you get that information, then we'll turn it over to Mr. Kane to get to the next level of
So
documenting.
I was actually talking about people that wanted to come rather than the ones you were chasing down.
I'm talking the ones we're chasing down, because that's a big one too. I hate to say it, but that's a big number too.
Yeah, we
the
just
kids.
need to know why they're not coming, why they're choosing other options, because again, the ADA drives this. I'm just more optimistic because I know the prices we use on the oil and gas stuff are all coming up. And that's going to, on the local side, that's gonna have a pretty good impact, I think. Because last year was kind of one of those aberrations that everything, in fact, we got caught on the wrong side of that curve too, so.
Well, the state's making them raise values for on a farm and ranch too, so they'll help a little bit.
Well, we're gonna see that down at the appraisal board, I think, that's right. So.
Anyway, we just got to thank everybody because we did tighten our belts, and everybody seems to be adjusting to that the best we can. I'm hoping that we don't have to tighten them even more. I keep using the term greyhound. We've got to learn how to be a greyhound.
Well, I'm trying to be optimistic, but I think it's still, the message we gotta get out, we talked a little bit about the principles and who's controlling spending where. I think we don't wanna let this get out of control at all, so we don't have to face that problem, so.
Okay.
Any more questions for Doug on the budget? Do I hear a motion to adopt the budget operating year?
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Good job.
Thank you. We need to adopt a resolution setting the M&O and IS tax rates for the 2022 fiscal year.
Again, the M&O rate is .9634, down from .9664, and the INS rate is .11, up from .09.
And even though, I don't like how I feel about increasing taxes, that's an accomplishment in the face of where we've got all kinds of entities that are raising taxes at
Yes.
pretty good levels. So I think the restraint of the school district's commendable.
Well, we're still low compared to our surrounding communities and
Yes.
the ones that are the same size as us, tax rate.
But this has been a tough year. I mean, this as well as I do, Tyler, but a lot of job losses, a lot of companies closing. It's just a tough year.
Any other questions? Do I hear a resolution? Second?
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Resolution passes 6-0. Next item is a consideration and possible action on our financial audit for 2021.
We have a proposed engagement letter from Brown Graham Company out of Amarillo. The estimate $40,500 plus anticipated travel of $3,000. So I've got that amount provided for in the budget, where there's just not that many out there. They're one of the few that would do an audit for a school our size, so.
Is that up or down on the estimate?
It's up a little bit from last year.
We were 37 last year, something like that.
It ended up being a little under 40. They didn't bill out as much as they thought they did, but.
I do have a question for you for them. talk about something really cool in here. I'll just read in their letter. At the time of this engagement letter was prepared, Brown Graham Company PC is in the preliminary stages of working with a strategic partner, MindBridge, to integrate artificial intelligence software into our audit and accounting practice. The implementation of this software, which has the capabilities to enable us to analyze entire sets of accounting data, will provide us the ability to identify anomalies, assess and rank transactions according to risk, and identify potential fraudulent transactions during our audit.
I read that.
That's pretty cool. So they could do it with less auditors.
Yeah.
One would
Let
think,
the AI do it.
one would think that's.
So the next sentence,
I thought pivot tables in Excel were supposed to do that, but.
the next sentence, the additional technology fee if they use the AI,
Yes.
that's, okay, I'm gonna be really nice here, that's horrible.
It is.
You got something that's gonna make you more efficient, utilize less staff to do more in-depth auditing, and you're gonna jack us for $750.
Yeah.
We're gonna pay for that artificial intelligence.
Twice, or they get paid for it twice.
Yeah, twice.
Once with increased efficiency and another time with us writing a check.
Yeah.
There we go.
When I used to be a school auditor, I didn't use MindBridge back in the day. But it is what it is. We have to have an audit, guys.
Yes, we do. Motion, it's still not gonna stop me from complaining.
Motion to hire.
Higher.
Second?
Motion been made and second. All those in favor? All those opposed, motion passes 6-0. We need to decide, it's not on the agenda, but we do need to decide on our September board meeting. Pull my calendar up. Okay, we have the weeks that, well, actually, we're supposed to be meeting the fourth Tuesday of the month, which would make it September the 28th.
It's best for me, I think.
Any objections to September the 28th?
That works perfect for me.
Okay. September 28th, 6 p.m., next official board meeting.
It's the Tuesday before K-State beats OU.
Okay. You have any idea?
You gotta mark those big holidays.
Is this the last time they'll be playing OU, you think?
Okay.
I think
Anything else to be brought before the board tonight? If not, I declare this meeting adjourned.
Thanks. Good job, man.
So Sheriff wants to bet you $750.